Tim Kirby Russia hot takes. It's not Trump, but a multipolar world that'll make America great again. Now guys, many years ago when I started to work in the Russian media, what was it, 11 or 12 years ago, I wrote something about how a strong Russia is good for America. And I think I got laughed at by both sides of the lines. Of course, I wrote it in Russian, so more Russian people like, dude, you're nuts, what the hell are you talking about? But I think we're starting to see that my prediction of the future is actually kind of starting to come true now. Because without competition, I think that's one of the main problems that America has suffered from. When we sort of had this unipolar moment, I've heard it called, in 1991-ish, when the United States found itself being the world's only hyperpower, that's where the problem started. You know, in school, they beat into our heads this idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely over and over and over again. I can't imagine how many times I've heard that expression on TV or especially in school. But when it comes to geopolitical world power, no one sort of thought that, well, if we're the only world hyperpower, maybe that will absolutely corrupt us. We didn't think about that. But guys, as you've seen over the last 30 years, mostly the United States has done, if you look at the United States from the standpoint of being a nation that wants to be a powerful civilization that works for its own good. If you look at things from that standpoint, the United States has shot itself in the foot for the last 30 years over and over and over again. It probably has no feet left. So it's very frustrating as an American to watch all this. Now with the rise of Russia, when the Russians went in on February 24th, 2022 into Ukraine, that was the beginning of the multipolar world when another power could act unilaterally without the permission of the hegemon. And although there's definitely been some economic downturn, as we can see, the world is changing, and the United States is forced to live in the reality again where there's competition. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, now power is not so much absolute. We're back into a world where there are competitors and there are various poles of power. And when you're in a situation where there's real competition, that means you have to live in reality and not so much wokeness. Because if the United States is really going to have to actually, use its military now, that military can't be woke, my friends. Now, if we kind of take things and look at them maybe more in a little bit of a microcosm, we can see that the dollar's actually stabilized after years of suffering. The United States is seeing that there's a need to sort of reindustrialize itself. It's also, according to a lot of economists, doing a good job of exploiting and dragging all the business and wealth from Western Europe to itself, kind of creating new vassals out of the Europeans there. But regardless, the United States seems to have, despite the madness of Biden and all of these years of questionable policies and the military-industrial complex and so on and so forth, it seems like the United States is kind of actually on a little bit of an uptick finally. That's all thanks to Russia and thanks to a multipolar world. So guys, what I only hope is that people in Washington can understand that a multipolar world isn't so much a competition in the sense of a war where you have to crush your enemy, but I hope they start to look at it in the sense of a competition like a sports league, where, yeah, the Cleveland Browns want to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they don't have to murder them in their sleep. You know what I mean? So if you think about it, the rise of Russia, and especially the rise of China, the rise of real competition, and the end of an absolute hegemon is going to be pretty good for the United States, economically, spiritually, and so on. Because if the United States continues to sort of degenerate and rot before our eyes, it's not going to be able to compete anymore. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you like the opinions coming out of my big fat mouth, then join up on my Telegram channel. That's Tim Kirby Hardcore on Telegram. Link, of course, in the description.